Are you 100% certain that your beliefs line up with reality? You might not be. Take a religious belief, for example. It's very difficult to deny that Jesus was a globe-shaping figure who lived 2,000 years ago. His teachings and followers shaped the world that we live in today. From hospitals and how we take care of the poor to science and the value of human life, government, ethics, art, entertainment, the value of the family, the list goes on and on and on. All because of the belief that Jesus lived, that he died on the cross, and he rose from the grave. But did he? Can we know for certain? Let's get a little bit closer in history to us today, the moon landing. In the 1960s, NASA set out to land a man on the moon. And after years of hard work, they landed a small group of humans on the lunar surface. You can look at the evidence, articles, internal documents, pictures, even video that the astronauts took to be convinced of this. But honestly, did we actually land a man on the moon 50 years ago? There are some who say that we did. But a large amount of Americans, 22%, have some sort of doubt, they question it, or they believe the whole thing was a hoax. They look at shadows in the pictures, analyze the footage, and claim that a small group of government officials and filmmakers faked it and took that lie to their grave. Now, I'm not saying that we didn't land on the moon. I'm just asking the question, how certain are we of the things that we believe? Certainty is simply the absence of any form of doubt. And take the simplest actions of our day. Are we certain that we're gonna wake up in the morning? Are we certain that our friends really like us? Are we certain that our faith is real? Back in high school, a mentor of mine took some friends and I to the Creation Museum in Kentucky. This museum is all about answering the question, is Genesis literal history? Was the earth created like the Bible records, where God supernaturally spoke the earth into existence, or did it all happen by chance and by means of evolution? I remember leaving that trip feeling like I had reasons to believe that my faith were true, at least in terms of intelligent design and creation. And fired up, I went home thinking, I'm gonna convert my friends with these new facts, my friends who were agnostic or even atheist. One night, we were sitting in the basement of my friend's house, and some of the information that I had learned came up, and my friend challenged me, and we had this dialogue and conversation back and forth. But what I remember distinctly from that moment is, after presenting all of these facts and pictures that I had taken from this trip, is my friend asking this question. He was like, so is this it for you? Are you 100% certain that Christianity is true? And I sat back, probably on my heels a little bit, and I was like, yeah, 100%. I am absolutely certain that Christianity is true. And there was this urge inside of me to produce some sort of certainty in regards to my beliefs. And in reflecting on that moment, I felt this tension between desiring certainty to know without a shadow of a doubt, and also having genuine questions that I just kind of forced down and didn't want to deal with. And maybe you're just like me, where somewhere along this path in life, we picked up the idea that we can only believe something if we have certainty, 100% proof. In the midst of really wrestling and questioning my faith, I came across a video of a guy named John Steingard. He publicly deconstructed his faith after being in the Christian music scene for years. John was sitting on a podcast, and he was asked the question, in regards to the culture of Christianity, what do you see that needs to change? And John kind of looked down and he thought for a little bit and looked up, and he said, I think that the culture of certainty needs to change. He went on to explain that it's this idea that I believe something without a shadow of doubt. And these questions that we have, genuine questions about the things we believe, they can't be shared, they can't be talked about for the fear of someone walking away from their faith. A culture that's often assumed of just push down your questions, show up to church, and have more faith. And sitting there listening, it shook me. It took me back to my friend's basement when I sat there and I said, with 100% certainty, I believe that Christianity is true. Even when my friends began to poke holes in my arguments or bring up things that I had never heard of before, the certainty that I created had to remain, the dogmatic belief that with 100% proof, Christianity is true. While listening to that podcast, there was also this fear and uncomfort that crept up in my life. And the question of, why do I crave certainty? Why do we all crave certainty? Simply, we crave certainty because it feels safe. Most of the decisions in our lives are genuinely chosen because we're moving away from pain and towards pleasure. It's moving from discomfort to things or situations that make us feel comfortable. And intellectually, we crave certainty for a number of reasons. It protects us from being wrong and the implications of being wrong. Maybe we really desire others' acceptance, and if we're wrong, we fear losing friends or their respect. All in all, we just hate the unknown. But a quick observation of our news feed leads us to believe that this world is full of uncertainty. It's unpredictable, and it's full of people making decisions that often hurt others. Governments and people groups steal others' freedoms. Pandemics, they cut us off from the people and the relationships that we love. Cultural pressures stunt our feelings of authenticity, and war takes lives. We experience these things even if they don't directly happen to us. Just asking the question of, what if this were to happen to me? It personalizes it. See, we as humans, we desire things like freedom, connection to others, purpose and meaning, life itself. But a quick look out at this world, we realize that these things are fragile. It's like we walk out the front door and the world is constantly trying to take these things away. We crave safety for protection of the things that we desire, which we want to know for certain. But here's the paradox. We crave certainty, but we can't have it because nothing in this life is certain. Take one of the mundane activities of our everyday life, thinking getting in the car and going somewhere. Unconsciously, we just do it. We get in the car and we think we're gonna get to where we want to go. But if we were to stop and think, are we really certain that we're gonna reach our destination? No. This is because there's just way too many things outside of our control. Think about how complicated a car is. It might seem simple when you grab the steering wheel and press the gas, but there's a lot of things going on. Think about other drivers on the road that could cause an accident, road construction, weather, the list goes on and on. There are too many things that could go wrong to be 100% certain. Okay, this is what we've covered so far. First of all, the things that we believe, most of us have less than good reasons for actually believing them. And number two, we seem to crave certainty, but nothing in this life is certain. This leaves us at kind of a standstill. We're searching for certainty, but what will satisfy our longings for reality? When thinking about this in my own life, I did what I often do when I don't know where to go for an answer. I look to a trusted friend or a teacher who has wrestled through some of this stuff before.
Where do you get your certainty?
So I don't have certainty.
Sorry, where do you get your suspicion?
Yeah, I intentionally use the word confidence.
There we go.
Because I'm not certain about a lot of things. And maybe this is because I'm a philosopher and nuance a whole bunch of things. Maybe it's because I'm naturally just skeptical and question almost everything that I believe and do. So I think if the standard is certainty, we'll never believe anything. I would argue that it's only that Jesus rose from the grave that actually can account for all of the facts that we have very good confidence, not certainty, but very good confidence are actually true and real.
Did you catch that? It's not certainty, it's confidence. And in a real way, this is actually freeing because certainty, it doesn't stand on much other than our good feelings, but confidence, it stands on events and facts and history that we can know to be true. If the standard is certainty, what happens when a doubt comes along? What happens when there's a question that we can't answer? Well, if the standard is certainty, then the whole thing's not true. In reality, certainty is a house of cards. Insert one crack into the foundation and the whole thing crumbles. But when we stand with confidence on real things like facts and logic and eyewitness accounts, historical events, even personal experience, when we stand on those things, all of a sudden questions of the unknown and doubts, they begin to have less power in our lives. And I'm not saying we disregard those questions, we shouldn't, because the way that we actually gain confidence is through investigation. In my journey, I came across a philosopher named Thomas Bayes, and he named a way of determining how probable or true something is by looking at all of the evidence. Because the question, is Christianity true? Well, it's debatable, and we can't know for certain. So how can we know with confidence? Well, Bayes in his theorem says we don't just look at a single event. We look at all of the facts and we build a case. Here's the scenario he came up with. Let's take this ball, and if we were to throw this up right behind us, without looking, we have no idea where it lands. But let's say that this ball is the question, is Christianity true? Not knowing if Christianity is true is kind of like throwing the ball behind your head and having no idea where it lands. Bayes wanted to know where that ball landed, so he said we need two things. Number one, we need to throw more balls in the air, and we need an external observer. Someone who knows where that first ball landed. Every time another ball is thrown, we ask the observer where it lands in relation to the first ball, in front or behind. The more balls you throw in the air, the more confidence you can have of where this first ball landed. Let's apply this to Christianity. Back to the question, is Christianity true? When this question is asked, it can seem like there is no answer. Let's do what Bayes does. Let's look at other evidences and ask, where do they point? The other balls are the other evidences, and the observer is the people who witnessed or were close to the events and recorded them in history. Let's look at the evidence, the Bible, the lives of the apostles, the person of Jesus, evidence for the resurrection, lived experience, and eyewitness accounts. Where does this evidence point? When looking at all the evidence together, we begin to see the case that Christianity is in fact true. Because on their own, these little pieces of evidence, they can be scary. But when we lay them all out together, we begin to build a case. This is reality. Something happened 2,000 years ago that changed the course of history. We might not be able to, with absolute certainty, answer the question if Christianity is true, but we can build the case. We can look at the evidence and we can find reasonable confidence. Would you discover alongside me? Would you seek truth? Would you weigh the evidence? Would you journey with me as we find the answer to the question, is Christianity true?